we're recording already.
Okay.
So here we go. Oh, you're good where you are.
Oh, sorry.
Don't get too close.
I feel like I need to shift sometimes.
No, you're fine.
All right.
Well, welcome to, this is another episode of
Working Class Zeros.
Yeah. And today we are going to talk about
We're going to work on our outfits, right?
gigs for gigs, right?
Yeah, and drinking at the
Yeah,
gigs.
drinking at the gig. Definitely drinking
Yeah,
at the gig.
and then we're also going to be talking about was noodling.
Noodling, yeah. Well, noodling is a big part too, right? So
I think so.
So why don't we start off with drinking at the gig? Because I think that's one that's always one that's hard to approach unless you want to.
Well, I was thinking let's do it as we're going to the gig. Okay, so we're going to worry about our outfit. Then
Okay.
we're going to get there, and then
okay.
are we drinking when we before the gig? Are we drinking during the gig? If we drink at all, and then what about noodling?
Let's talk about appropriate attire for a gig, right?
Yeah, start there.
Because I think that's a good point. I think especially now that we're in summer, technically, right?
Yes.
Kind of. It's still spring, but summerish enough. By the time this comes out, it probably will be summer.
Oh yeah.
But if you think about it, it's like how many guys do you know that play gigs that wear shorts? You know, and
Yeah.
there is a stigma, and it's funny because I saw somebody talking about this recently, and they said, when you think about shorts on the gig, right? If you're on a stage, what are people looking at? They're looking at your legs. They're eye level with your legs, or your shoes. They're at your feet. So that could pose a problem. Like you never really think about those things because you kind of take it from your perspective, right? Here I am on the stage, I'm facing out. But you kind of have to assume what is the audience seeing. So you might have a different perspective on that, though.
That's true. I mean, like I've also been in scenarios before where it's just brutally hot, and then the exception of the rule comes out because normally it'd be like no shorts.
Yeah.
No shorts ever, but then you do the outdoor gig where it's 100-something degrees outside, it's muggy, and maybe the place barely gives you like a fan for like the stage area.
Well,
it's like, here you go.
I bring my own.
Yeah, well, you can bring your own.
Yeah, that's for another working class Zeros.
Yeah.
Talking about bringing the proper. We probably should talk about that as leading up. That could be part of a tire.
Sure.
Is bringing your own fan.
Yeah.
As everybody knows, the drummer always has his own fan.
That's
right?
true, yeah. But I'm just saying, so like if the air's not really circulating, it gets hot quick. So there's been the exception to the rule where I've worn shorts to the gig, but never something that was very like formal or expected of me. Like if it was something like a higher profile thing, never would wear shorts to it.
I think you have a good point there. I think if I were going to the gig, and I mean, again, this is perspective, right? Again, thinking about what the audience member is saying, because it's like selling the product versus making the product, right? When you make, you know, it goes in the sausage, right? But but you don't want the audience to think about what's in the sausage. You want them to see the sausage, right? And that's really what you're giving. So is the band a cohesive product? And I think that's part of the outfit. It's like, I know for the New Standard for a long time, it was like everybody was in black except for the singer, who she would wear dresses or something that was a little bit more colorful, because it was almost like the band Ghost. There were the Nameless Ghouls, right? The Nameless Ghouls all wore masks. Nobody knew who they were. And you had the singer who was like kind of the emphasis, or the show was the emphasis.
Yep.
They were just part of that. And I think the same thing applies for the rest of the band too. It's like, as a product, a band, if you're selling it now, if you're just playing with your friends on the weekend and it's like, hey, you're lucky if you're making beer money, then do as you will.
And what you're really getting at is coordinating outfits, because coordinating is something is where you're trying to package it all up into a nice package, and you want to like present it to people like, hey, this is a full thing, like it's a presentation, it's a performance, not just like we're gonna go and play some of our favorite tunes for a few locals or nothing like that. Like we're really trying to sell this thing. So when you go that route, like you're gonna be concerned about what color top you're wearing. If is it a button down? Are you allowed to wear a t-shirt or not allowed to wear a t-shirt? You're gonna wear pants. Okay, you're gonna wear dark colored denim.
I found that most places a black t-shirt is normally appropriate. That will pass. Like that will suffice.
It will.
Button downs are better if you have a button down for a lot of gigs, but let's be honest, like summer is rough, so normally a t-shirt makes things a little bit more manageable and it's passable. But it all depends on the gig too. You're playing a jazz gig and you're not, most of the time you're like a collared shirt. They want a collared shirt or something for that. So when you make that $100, maybe $125, you got to wear that shirt.
And so speaking of like going from head to toe with all of that type of stuff, I try to avoid like graphic tees a lot of times. I try to just go with like a plain black shirt for the most part. But like going down to our feet, then we're worried about like what our footwear is.
So we're saying not shorts. So
shorts.
So what would go along with that is probably not sandals. So so an open-toed shoe is probably never a good idea.
Yeah.
And there's some people that you'll see with like sandals on, that like the hippies that are like, yeah, I'm feeling it. The guys who take their shoes off, and it's like, again, where is the stage? I mean, that also changes too. If you're playing in a parking lot and everybody's eye level with you, like you're eye to eye, then your shoes probably don't matter as much. But when people start pulling away and they get the full package, again, this depends on what you're doing. If you're doing this and you're trying to sell the band and you're like a bunch of like, dirty, you have dirty feet and they're on the stage and people are looking at your dirty feet, you might not want to do that. So a proper shoe wear is always good. I mean, sneakers will always suffice.
Yep.
Shoes are pretty good. Boots are always good. I mean, again, it's summer, so like going in, like being prepared.
I would say like boots are always acceptable, obviously, and then when it comes to sneakers, cons go over great. All black shoes, like what do you have on right now?
These are Birkenstocks.
Yeah. So you got
Birkenstocks.
nice boots on. Like I was saying before, boots are always acceptable. The running shoe, like the brightly colored running shoe, I think that's almost just as bad as going barefoot.
Doesn't Scott do that?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
Not anymore.
As I said, I thought
Nice try.
He was wearing green shoes the last time I saw him, but
he wears like those they're like they
Asics.
are
Like the ASIC running shoes.
No, they're like a running shoe, but they're like a sock almost. It's like one of those types of things. Barefoot trainer things.
You probably don't want to wear the Vibrams either. The toe shoes.
No toe shoes.
Don't do toe shoes.
No.
Yeah, don't do that one.
That's worse than sandals.
That's worse than being barefoot. That. If you're that dude wearing those toe shoes, and I had those too. I own pairs of them. I never wore them on the gig.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. They do look crazy. They're a little goofy.
So I think that kind of covers like the outfit for the most part there. So that button downs are the best option for a top. Dark colors, black, like most likely. And also if you're being hired for a gig, like it's a good thing to even just ask sometimes. Like ask like whoever's actually like booking you for the gig. Like, all right, is there like an outfit requirement? Is there some kind of expectation? They're almost always going to say like wear black. But like with that one stipulation, maybe that they have like a certain like color or style they want you to wear or a way they want you to look. There's always the possibility.
Well, that's when I subbed in for the Monophonics for that run on the East Coast years ago. It was 2016. God, it's almost 10 years ago at this point. But I remember asking them when I met up with them, I was like, hey, what's the stage attire? What's appropriate for you? And they were like jeans, button-down shirt, and that's like a soul band, like a neo soul. So even they have like a style, and they had a requirement. So knowing that before you meet up with them, so you pack the right things, you don't want to show up. But almost always a black T-shirt and black jeans or dark color jeans, always good. You don't want to go in like that stonewashed, like late '80s, early '90s, light colored jeans, unless you're doing like Unless you're Matt Garrison. I saw him wearing like the all white with like he had like the white pants with the white.
Sure, yeah, you can pull that off, the linen suit type deal.
Yes, he can pull that off, but he's doing something different. So he's not playing your cover band stuff.
No,
he's not doing that. But he could pull that off.
Yeah.
The rest of us, no, not so much.
Okay, so we got the outfit figured out, right?
Yeah. So bring a fan though. So again, that would be, I think that's
bonus tip.
Yeah, that's a bonus tip. Pro tip. That's a pro tip. And the fan just makes a lot of sense because it's like you can pick up like a cheap fan. I was over at Harbor Freight today, and they actually have the battery powered ones, which are great because then you're not plugging it into your power strip or trying to find a place that it's going to draw. And actually, the hum from a fan, I've heard, like I've known people that plugged them in the same plug as their amp and get that buzz.
Okay.
Because it's an electric motor, so the electric motor can send a sound in through the pickups or through your amp. So a battery-powered one isn't a bad idea because also you can place it anywhere. You can move it around as you're playing. So I think that's a good idea. I think they were $50 right now at Harbor Freight.
Okay.
Who would thunk it?
Yeah, so affordable.
Yeah, so that's a good summer tip. And having beverages with your water. But what about beverages at the show?
Right, yeah, so now we're at the gig. We're fully dressed. We're ready to go. And let's say our stage is all set up at this point. We have a few minutes because we're the bass players, so we're already set up pretty early.
I'm there before everybody else.
Yeah, and it's like, it's the drummers and the singers are taking their good old time setting everything up. Like, meanwhile, we've been ready for 30 minutes. Like, what's going on now?
Yeah.
So we tend to mosey over to the bar. If you partake in like inebriations and whatnot, I mean, like, inebriations.
Is inebriations a word?
Yeah, sure it is.
partake in beverages?
Yeah.
Inebriations? Is it? I don't know if it's inebriations.
Oh, I'm going to use it now.
Oh, there you go. You coined that one.
If I'm going to partake in my inebriations.
Is that like your toofuses?
Yes. Well, like if you're going to go over to the bar and have yourself a beverage, like what's going to happen is like, you might have some time. Maybe you just grab a beer. Maybe you just want to like have like one beverage or something like that. I think it really boils down to your tolerance and how well you know the material and if you're comfortable enough with the band itself, whether or not you want to partake in a beverage. You might want to wait, especially if you're subbing.
I would wait till after the first set.
Yeah,
that's
you want to get the nerves out if you're subbing.
Yeah, that's my advice is wait till the first set's done. And if you are going to drink and it is a job, you can't really, people don't really want you to drink on your day gig, so you probably shouldn't drink on your night gig either to extent. I mean, let's be honest.
Some people treat it like a night out with their friends if if it's just like a hobby type thing.
Sure.
So.
But I mean, there's ways to kind of work through that. I always try to curb it with water. Get yourself a water as well. If you're gonna have a beer, drink a water. Make sure that you drink a water between just to kind of slow that process down.
Be 21 or older, and always drink responsibly. There you go. We set our little piece, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, for me, if I go to a gig, if I've been playing with the band for a long time, like just regular play, if I'm playing out with Scott or something like that, like one of those guys, I know the material like the back of my hand. I don't have to think too much about it. I can go and have like a couple of drinks before the gig starts, and that would be it for the night for me. I just go loosen up a little bit. Okay, here we go. Now it's time to go hit the downbeat. Yeah. But like outside of that, not really like going to get drunk. I would never say to go and do that because that's where you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make like a fool of yourself or the band. It can look poorly upon you from like the venue standpoint as well.
Well, I think some people take advantage of the venue too. If the venue offers you free drinks, I mean, I think that you don't want to take advantage of them to the point where you're like, you're drinking their profits, you know. And I've worked with bands where we've had people that did way too much of that, where they got sloppy, and they were, the bar was like, let's cut them off. I mean, at that point, it's really pathetic.
Yeah.
And that looks bad for the band. It's not professional at all. So if you are gonna drink, make sure that you drink within reason. Yeah. Make it social. Do not if you have a problem with it, you probably shouldn't be drinking at all. Or maybe you shouldn't even be in that venue. And I know a lot of former musicians who had that issue who no longer play bars anymore.
Sure.
And that's fine. And there are options for that. They're just harder to find because the bars tend to have, they tend to be the places that have the music.
And then there's the people who choose not to drink but like still play the bars and whatnot. It's all up to you and what you're comfortable with.
Yeah,
really.
and having a substitute, I never have a problem with somebody drinking coffee on the gig. Nobody ever has a problem with that person. So and most bars have there's a pot brewing a coffee somewhere.
Usually there's one in the background. Who knows if it's been there since this morning, but still there's coffee.
That's true.
But nonetheless, partaking in like a beverage or two, not a problem. Like just do it responsibly and make sure that you're not putting yourself or the band in a position that's going to make you guys look poorly to the venue or to the audience and whatnot. Like, be responsible in that sense as well.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
Because like with the venue, like we were just saying before, like you don't want to take advantage of like the bar tab. You also don't want them to be embarrassed that they booked you in the first place.
Well, and what happens, I've seen this happen too, where people can't control themselves. They overpartake, and then they start to loosen up with their vernacular, and they end up offending the audience and maybe even the neighbors. Because sometimes some of the places, and we played at brew pubs where they have you outside, and we've had guests who have actually drank to the point of insulting the neighbors, and it got us actually kicked off of a gig because they blamed us, even though we had nothing to do with it. But we kind of, we didn't stop them from being the way that they were, and it just, they, were saying F the neighbors, and that kind of kills the gig, and it can definitely put a damper on it.
Yeah, it's
So-
like that whole like loose lips type deal, you know.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and that's the whole thing. It's like, you know, sometimes that having a little bit too much is going to cause that to happen, and like people are just going to start saying things that they don't mean, or offending somebody in the
Yep.
audience, or
Yep.
like the venue itself, or a neighbor, and the next thing you know, your band's out of a gig, a
It
venue.
happens. It happens very easily. So know who you're working with. I think that's important too. And if you're the leader of the band and you see that happening, you can always put a stop to it. You know, you can be like, hey, you know, is that a good idea? But for us as the working class zeros, you're coming into the gig, just kind of understanding who you are, knowing yourself. You know, hey, I can't handle that. Then maybe you shouldn't do it, right? And that's, I think, a big part of that.
Yeah, it's like, maybe don't give me a mic tonight.
Yeah, maybe not, or maybe I'll just drink coffee.
There you
know,
go.
Sometimes that's a better option.
And honestly, if you are at all like kind of like iffy about like, I don't know about this whole scenario, you're just not sure of the people, you're not sure of the venue, it's all new to you.
Yeah.
Why not just not do it then?
Yeah,
you know, like I was saying before, like if I was pretty comfortable with the people I'm playing with, sure, I'll partake in a couple of drinks because I know the people, I know the venue, I know the typical audience. But if I'm playing somewhere new, yeah, like I'm a little bit more focused for sure. Like everything else kind of matters a little bit more.
Absolutely. So I think that brings us to our next point. It's like, so you said you went over, had a few drinks. What happens a lot of times that people set their stuff up, right? They set it up, and what's the thing that most people do? So the gig doesn't start till 8 o'clock, right? And you're already set up. It's 7:25. Start sound checking a little bit, right? Let's make sure the sound's good. Okay, so we start playing a little bit. We run parts of songs, right? We get the audience kind of jazzed up for a certain song, and you play about a third of it, right?
Sure.
And you stop. They go, okay, the sound's good. Then there's always that one person in the band that continues to noodle around and make noise until 8 o'clock. So there's not really a hard start because all of a sudden we played up until the starting time. So there's no definitive boundary of when the band is on and when the band is off. So this brings up the point of noodling before start time.
Yes.
Should you do it?
No. Typically for myself, I will plug in and I will just kind of like get to a stage volume that I want to get to. I'll make sure that all of, like, if I'm using any pedals, like everything kind of sounds the way it's supposed to sound. If I can play through a few things with using each one of the different sounds that I'm using, like, okay, it sounds like a bass.
Yep.
Roll off the volume, hit the mute button, and then just hang it up, and I wait till the band is ready for a sound check.
Yes. And there's always somebody in the band that's gonna do this. There's either it's the drummer that's still setting things up, and you'll see them set their drums up, and then for the next 25 minutes they're still setting up cymbals and running through everything, or the guitar player that never actually gets his tone correct and plays up till the last minute. There has to be a definitive stop, and my feeling is it needs to be at least 5, 10, 15 minutes before, like almost like a break before the set starts, just so that there's a definitive separation between the noodling and the band. Yeah. So all the tuning, all the sound check song, that's got to stop. And once that song finished, once you're done, everything's set, stop, get off the stage, walk away from it. Just walk away from it.
Yeah.
Don't stand around there waiting for the set to start. You got to put it away. Leave it so that the stage is empty. And I think that goes back to having the matching, like the color coordinated clothing, is that there's an image, right? There's a theme. The theme is that the band plays together. We have the set worked out. We're not on the stage independently, unless you're doing a set where it's maybe just a singer, or a guitar player, or some variation. But there needs to be separation, and it needs to be intentional, because anything without intention is crap. So intention is really important. So you have to intentionally set up your set, not just kind of meander in. It's not a garage. If you're going to do it in the garage, it's fine in the garage.
Yeah, noodle away in the garage, by all means. I mean, like, they might get annoyed with you if it's like band practice, and it's like, hey, this is a rehearsal. We're not here to like learn the songs or just like, noodle around the whole time. It's about just like being efficient with time then too. But yeah, like a garage is kind of jam session.
Yeah.
Whatever, doesn't matter. But the gig is different.
Yeah.
The gig is very different. Like Steve's 100% right, where definitive stop time from like the tuning and like the noodling to just kind of like get the sounds right, and then where the show actually begins. Like that's really important. And yeah, like there's keyboarders that do that, guitar players that never like the tuning song never ends. It seems for them.
And then they don't tune. You'll have a guitar player who brings multiple guitars and doesn't tune the other guitar. And it's like, and then when you go to the next song, they have to tune the guitar again.
Yeah.
Because they didn't tune it. So it's like, get those things done. And you know what's really great is that tuners have a mute on them, so you don't actually have to make noise while you tune it.
This is true. This is true.
Those do exist.
Yeah, you can invest in one of those. But yeah, like so, like for when it comes to noodling, I think it's important just to kind of like remember that the audience isn't there to hear you just noodle around and just kind of play whatever you want to do. It's like they're there to hear a performance.
Oh, and sometimes the audience isn't there to hear you at all. You're just kind of in the background, right? And I think that's a reality too. Sometimes some people are there, but then if you're playing a bar, sometimes you're just background music or background noise.
Yeah.
And if you're really noise, what a great way to chase people away before you even have a chance to start, right?
Oh yeah.
Show them that you're not professional by just making noise for 20 minutes before the band starts. And you'll see the people line up, they start walking out the door. So you don't want to chase out the people that are there already.
Yeah.
So it's really important.
There's other things that go along with chasing people out, like band volume and different other things, and knowing like the venue and how the sound's reverberating through it. That's probably for another Working Class Zeros when we start getting into all of that, because those are all things that will drive people out as well. Not only just the insistent noodling.
Insistent?
It
insists upon itself.
Am I just like screwing up the English language today?
You are a little bit. That's okay.
Okay.
It's all right. Insists upon itself, right?
Insists upon itself.
Kind of like the Godfather insists upon itself. Little Family Guy humor there. But yeah, I think incessant noodling
there you go.
is an issue. Definitely. So I think now we come up to the part where it's awesome, but is it necessary?
Okay, yeah.
And we have two items today that we're going to talk about. One of them is one that was kind of a big thing for a long time, and I kind of brought it back out because I find myself needing it periodically. And this is a Hipshot D tuner.
Yep.
I have a bunch of them. I like them because in those situations on the gig where you're dropping tuning and coming back up, you just flip the switch and you drop the key. Now I have one that actually has several stops, so I can move between 3 different tunings. But in most places, though, it's nice to have one that lets you drop from one pitch to another pitch, especially with an open D string.
Yeah, that's all I ever use mine for, because I have one as well on my Fender, and it just goes from E down to D, and for the most part, it's pretty damn accurate. So like once you set it ahead of time, usually when I'm tuning, I'll go through each one of the strings, go like right from G down to E. And then when I'm done with that, I will go and I'll flip it open to D, and I will just fine tune the open D setting with that. That's like a little spring that's over here too, with the little knob there.
And what you can do is you can actually get it like kind of in between and kind of angle it so that you can kind of adjust the screw. So when you leave it open, sometimes it's a little bit hard.
It gets tight, so you have to relieve it a little bit.
There is a little bit of play in that you can do to fine tune that. Which
like I said, I use that all the time. There's not a ton of songs that I do in drop D, but there is the occasional moment where it's nice to have the drop D, and then I can quickly get rid of it again.
Or even just an E flat. Like if you're going to play if you're playing Stevie Wonder, Superstition has the E flat, and it's nice to be able to play that E flat. Or there's a ton of tunes that have the E flat in there. But it is a nice tool, and it's normally you just buy it directly from Hipshot. I just ordered a new one for my new bass because I need one for my Fender.
Yeah, I've always used the Hipshot D-tuners for like my 4-string basses. Like that was always almost like a needed thing for me. And is it cool, but is it necessary? I'm already kind of saying it's necessary.
Well, one of the things I like about it too is it does add extra mass to the headstock.
Sure. So it does. It's heavier.
Yeah, so it adds mass on the E string side, which actually helps for resonating. Because as you know, with Fenders, one of the problems that Fenders have a lot of time is that they have a dead note, right?
Yes.
And where's that dead note? It's normally like a C or a D.
Between the C and D.
Yeah. So the way that we fix that is we use something like this. Now this is, so we said the Hipshot, definitely necessary. I agree.
Yeah, okay. We both agree for once.
Yeah, definitely necessary. Now this is a Fat Finger. This is actually the Fat Finger. This is one of the Fender ones. So there's the Fat Finger that was made by Groove Tubes, and then Fender bought them. These are harder to find. You still can find them on Reverb. I bought this one not too long ago. but this one is this one's one of the Fender ones, and I use them on a lot of different basses because there are certain places where you get like a wolf tone, or you play the C or the D and it just disappears. It's like you play, it's like
Can't explain it. It doesn't resonate.
It's a design issue actually, and it's interesting because almost all Fenders have that problem, except for my new one. My new one does not have that, but it's a different set of woods on that one. But this one definitely has it because this one's a 69, so it's like right in that placement.
Sure.
But it's not just a set it and forget is what I found. So the Fat Finger does work, but what you have to do is you almost have to move it around to find where that weight actually will help to adjust on the treble side. And that's what I found. Because in the same way that the hip shot adds weight to the E string side, the Fat Finger adds weight to the other side. And I use them on almost all my Fenders.
I know you're a big fan of them. I've never owned one, so like I've never gotten to really like experiment with it.
Well, the first one I had was I had an issue with my Federa. So I had a Anthony Jackson Federa, and I remember talking to Vinny about it, and Vinny said get a Fat Finger for it, and that's what I did because it had a couple resonating issues where the note would disappear, and on that bass I wanted everything to resonate.
Of course.
And it was a learning experience, and after that I kind of it was the way to go, and I've been using them for years, for over at this point probably 15, 16 years now. And they really do make a difference.
So it's necessary then.
I think it's necessary. Depends on the bass. Depends on the bass. So if you're playing your bass and it just kind of like you're noticing that there are no dead spots, then you don't need one.
Yeah, I don't know if that really applies with like some of the active basses that are out there necessarily.
It's still a resonating frequency.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like
still would exist.
Yeah, it still exists. I mean, even if you're you'll hear like you play the note and the note just kind of fades out faster than the rest of them.
That's really what you're looking for.
And this just, all you're doing is, the idea behind it is, if you've ever played upright, you ever heard of like wolf tone eliminators? Basically it's a weight, it's almost like a fishing weight that you put on the string. And you're basically just changing the weight of the string. You're moving kind of where that note actually happens. And it's kind of the same thing. It's like by adding weight mass to the headstock, we're moving it around a little bit.
Interesting. Yeah.
It is kind of strange, right? But
science.
It's magic. It's magic. We can't explain it, so it's magic.
Well, it must be.
There's science in that. It's definitely moving that around. So it changes. Definitely, the mass changes the frequency, changes where that falls.
Yeah, so I mean, like that's a couple of great little gadgets and tips for you guys that are playing 4 strings out there, especially the Fender 4 strings.
Even 5 strings though too. I mean, it works on any of them. I mean, it's.
Well, I'm just like encompassing both of them for like the hip shot detuner.
Oh,
Most likely you're going to use that on a 4 string.
Oh, that's a 5 string with a hip shot on it.
Well, yeah, it's also a C.
Yes, yeah, that is true.
It's a high C.
It is a high C.
So you want to have the low D still.
I have a low B.
Oh, you have a low B on there.
I have it going down to a B. Yeah, so I can drop it down to a B. So yeah. But fun. Yeah, it's a good time.
But yeah, so I think that kind of covers it. We did the outfit, we did the noodling, and we also did the drinking on the gig.
And then we talked about a couple of the, sure, it's awesome, but is it necessary?
Exactly.
And those, and so we decided that those could be, that one's definitely necessary, the other one could be necessary.
Yeah, I would say, experiment with your own bass, see if like you hear like those dead spots, and if it's something that's bothering you, like how much does one of those cost?
I think I bought mine for $13. I found a used one.
Why not? Why not just
Reverb?
Get that?
Yeah, Reverb. You can find them on Reverb. What can't you find on there, right?
Yeah, but I mean, for $13, you can't go wrong, really. It's like, oh, it didn't really help me that much. Okay, I only spent $13 then, so it's not a huge loss.
And they do make them. Just be careful when you do buy it. What I found is that there's a ton of them for guitar as well. You want to make sure that you get the one for bass.
Because more mass.
It is more mass. And also, it tends to have it has a longer finger. So when you're placing it on, because it's essentially a C-clamp is all it is. And when you adjust it, so the bass one tends to have a longer C-clamp. The finger on the bottom fits in a little bit deeper. So if you're doing the guitar one, it's not going to fit your bass. So just be aware so that you don't buy the wrong one by accident. So you're looking for a Fat Finger for bass. All right.
Yeah, very good.
So we covered a lot of stuff.
It was.
So we have we're going to have an anagram coming in at some point soon too that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and we're hoping to use it for a few different styled gigs.
Yeah, because we've been seeing that everybody's been kind of doing the evaluation, right? What about, let's see it live. Let's try to see what it actually does in a live scenario.
Yeah, not like in a studio or like just like utilizing like different like recording like apps and whatnot.
Yeah, well, my feeling is we always see people playing it in they're in their studio, right? And it's always like, okay, well, you flip this switch and it's so easy. Like Gregor, he does all these things and puts it. That's great. But what about when you're on the gig? You know, what if you don't want a modeler? What if you just need an array of pedals that you want to run into the send and return?
Sure.
What if you want to do it that way versus plugging it, having it direct? You know, running it straight through the line, and you don't want to have any signal loss. Where does it work
I think
like that?
we both have different plans for how to try and utilize it. So we're hoping that when we do receive the anagram, we're going to try and like stress test it in a way for through different gigs of see like whether we're using it as a pedal board, if we're using it as like a DI, if we're using it for like a model or whatever it is might be doing. Because I plan on using it for some like tribute shows in July, which I plan on trying to see if I can send a signal to the front of house with like a modeler, and do it that way.
Well, I hear the B15 modeler and it's pretty incredible.
So that's what I mean.
So,
like I'm kind of interested to hear what that's going to be like.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a Noble in there too, allegedly. So there's going to be some options. So we're going to try it in a real life scenario for the working class zeros. The guys like you who are going to, because it's $1,100 product. So if you're going to spend $1,100, almost $12, let's make sure that it's usable. So you're not just buying another pedal that sits around for a while and then you try to sell it. Let's see if it actually will hold up and make it part of our playing. Let's make it part of our gig attire. Does it work?
I like it.
Awesome. All right, friends, I guess we're going to sign out.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So we should thank Bass Musician Magazine again for hosting us once again. I know we say that every single time,
but it's true. We have to say thank you.
Yeah, well, without them, why would we do this?
Yes,
right?
exactly. Thank you.
So Bass Musician, thank you again for having us. It's such a great place to be. Remember to check out Bass Musician weekly, if not bi-weekly, because there's always updates and information coming, and there's a list of all kinds of really awesome gear that they're always talking about. So make sure you check that out. And also, we also have our own email now, the Working Class Zeros @gmail.com. So if you want to reach out to us, we'll put that email up there too so that you have it. But we are the Working Class Zeros @gmail. So if you have some questions around something that maybe we should cover or something that is coming up for you in your gig that you want us to address, why not? Let's talk about it.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
All right.
We're here to help you guys.
Sure.
Well, yeah, we are.
Are we?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Of course.
Yeah, of course we are. So till the next time, I'm Steve.
And I'm Sean.
And we're Working Class Zeros.
Have a good one, guys.
See you later. End time.
Yeah, there you go.